2022 Fall Fundraising Campaign for Signum University. I am delighted to be with you here today. We have a really fun day planned, lots of things happening. So here you can see the schedule that we are planning to keep or strive to keep today. I'm gonna try to be good. We'll see how we do. But we're going to be starting here in just a moment with the State of the University address. I'm going to be giving you guys some really exciting updates about what's been going on across Signum University here during this past year, and talking a little bit more about what's to come in the year as we move forward. And then we're going to be doing updates from many of our regular programs. We're going to be doing an update from Signum Studios. Then we're going to be doing a space update, which will include 4 different space capsules. That is little mini sections of space courses to give you a little bit of a taste of how our space courses work. And then we're going to be doing an update from the Signum Academy, and finally an update from the Signum University Press. So that is what we are planning for the day. And also interspersed amongst this all day long, we're going to be doing some games and giving away prizes. Let me tell you a little bit about that before we start. Because we're going to do this differently. So I've kind of called an audible, and instead of normally we do trivia. We've done a trivia competition as part of our webathon for a long time now, right? That's been a tradition. But I decided to break with tradition this year because I want to do something different. What I am planning to do today is a series of creative games. I'll show you. We're going to be doing some fun creative stuff with prizes given out to really fun entrants into that. So awesome. Yeah. Sorry, I'm seeing a green mat saying one of the disadvantages of being 2 years behind on exploring the Lord of the Rings is that I almost completely forgot about this. Yep. Yeah, it's true. It's true. You do get asynchronous announcements when you're a couple years behind. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to be explaining more as we move forward. Each one of I have 4 different, very brief but fun creative prompts that we're going to do. And I'm going to be giving prizes for each one. And most importantly, now this is one of the things I wanted to emphasize here at the start, is that there's going to be a grand prize. And the grand prize is only for somebody who submits 4 entries. We're going to have 4 different creative prompts. And so in order to qualify for the grand prize, you have to do them all. So the grand prize is going to be like not exactly a lifetime achievement, but like greatest contributions to the creative games over the course of the entire day. So conceivably, even somebody who doesn't win a prize in any of the individual games as we go through the day could still win the grand prize at the end if you submit something to all 4. So we're going to be doing these in between our other sessions. So our very first creative game will happen right after the State of the University address. So I'll explain a little bit more exactly how that's going to work when we get there. But if to qualify for the grand prize, you got to be here. You got to be in it. You got to be in it to win it. You got to stay for the day. And so for those of you who are able to stay with us for the day and participate all day long, you will qualify for the grand prize. All right. Well, let us get started with the State of the University address. I always really look forward to the State of the University addresses because it's just so much fun to share with everybody what's been going on at Signum University. I know that everyone who is here is connected with us in some capacity. Maybe you're one of, and it's funny, recently, Serena Higgins, our press editor-in-chief, was making a list on Twitter of Signum folks. And this prompted a lot of people to ask, do I qualify as a Signum person? Because I only just listen to one of the broadcasts asynchronously, so I don't know if I count or anything. You totally count, right? Our Signum community is consists not only of our faculty and staff that work with us at Signum, not only of our students who are enrolled in one of our several different teaching programs, but also to the people who listen to our to the broadcasts, to the weekly broadcasts, who benefit from other things, who maybe attend one of our events, either remotely or in person. There are all kinds of ways in which people can engage in the Signum community, and I am very grateful to all of you. It's one of the things that I am so excited about for this broadcast, for the finale of the fundraising campaign every year, is just the opportunity to celebrate people and to celebrate Signum with you guys. But again, a lot of you are, might be involved in different ways, but also to different extents. And so therefore might not even be aware of some of the things that are going on in the rest of Signum University, or have a lot of the big picture. So that's what I wanted to, that's one of the things that I'm excited to give you in the State of the University address. So here's what we're going to talk about. First, we're going to look back at some of the financial numbers from Signum University this past year, and over the past few years, actually. Now, that doesn't sound very exciting. Let's review the financial numbers. But I'm telling you, the reason I want to do this is it paints a really exciting picture of where Signum is and what's been happening. It's kind of stunning, actually, you'll see in just a minute. And then I want to look at what's been happening at Signum this year. We're going to sort of review some of the familiar programs that you will know about, and talk a little bit about some of the exciting things that are going on there. And then I'm going to be talking about big developments that happened this past year. We're going to talk about our first year in space. Of course, you will remember last year at this State of the University address, just over a year ago, it was about 13 months ago, of course, I announced and launched the space program officially. So we introduced space program to the world at last year's State of the University address. So I'm going to tell you some things about how the first year in space has been. And then, of course, I'm going to be talking a little bit about what's next and what's coming and what are the things that we're working on. So let me talk about the historic year that was 2021-2022. So first, let me talk about the annual fund, because of course that is the sort of excuse that brings us here together today. This is the end of our fall fundraising campaign, which, as people who have been around for a while know, Signum University, of course, is always very cheerfully accepting donations. We're a tax-exempt institution, and we really rely upon we really rely upon donations, not for our sole income by any stretch. We have, tuition-bearing programs, and, we sell tickets to our events and things like that. And these are things that we do to try to make sure that we break even. It would be almost impossible for us to operate as we do if 100% of our revenue came through donations. However, we also choose to operate in a way which, well, it doesn't exactly maximize our profit margin. We try to make everything that we do, all of the services that we offer, our teaching programs and our events and everything, we try to offer them at as low a price as we possibly can do. And what that means is we do really rely upon donations, upon our annual fund, in order to help to make ends meet, to really make Signum possible, so we don't have to pad our margins in every single pricing that we put out there. So that's it's completely essential for us. And you may remember in my update last year, I told you guys that in the previous year, in the 2020 to 2021 year, we had a record fundraising year. We raised $85,000 for the Signum Annual Fund in 2020 to 2021. We had never done that before. We broke all of our previous records. And so last year, again, if you were here with us, you will remember me saying that we were boldly striking out, and I set a goal for this past year's, for the fiscal year 2022, so 21 to 22. I set a goal for that year's giving at $100,000, which we had never hit $100,000 before. And we were at around a little under 80, I think, in gifts and pledges by the end of the campaign last year. And I was like, okay, all we need is, about 20,000 more, and we'll be able to hit our ambitious goal of 100,000. Well, you guys responded in an amazing way. Here's what actually happened last year. $136,000 of giving in last year's annual fund. As you can see how it dwarfed the previous record from fiscal year 21. It was just an amazing response of generosity that really jump-started Signum University. So many things are made possible. It's just incredible. And on a regular monthly basis, we are always trying to figure out what we can afford to do as far as paying people. There are so many tasks that need to be done, so many jobs that we would love to fill, but we're not sure if we're going to have enough money yet in the budget to be able to hire someone to fill that role. That is the number one thing that generosity like this enables, is it has empowered us, as I'll show you. It's a huge part of what has empowered us to be able to take a big step forward with our hiring and to get things done that we never were able to get done before. This year so far, we're already over $80,000 for this year so far, 80,768 to be exact, in gifts and pledges. I'm setting a new goal for this year of $120,000. So, yeah, my hope is that we will actually match or exceed last year's amount. But that was a huge that was a huge accomplishment last year. My goal is a little bit more modest. I think that we can hit 120. Again, I believe we can go further, but my goal, my sort of budgetary goal, is $120,000. We have, of course, the year end coming up. It's the middle of November now. As we get towards the end of year and you begin to start thinking about your taxes and some tax deductions and things like that, all Signum University donations are 100% tax deductible. So we do hope that you will remember Signum as we approach towards the end of the year. But this is just amazing. I wanted to begin with this and to tell people how grateful I am, how grateful everybody at Signum is for the marvelous generosity of our supporters. So let me show you some other things. This is just the beginning of the exciting story that some of these numbers tell. The total revenue. So I'm gonna for a couple of these next slides, I'm gonna sort of reshare the slide that I put up last year, right? Because last year I was telling this story too, a very similar story about how remarkable the growth at Signum has been over the last couple of years. So for instance, I shared this slide last year where I was showing what our Signum's total revenue had been over the last 3 years, and the very remarkable growth that we had been showing. And this was my projection for fiscal year 22. That is the past year that has finished. Our fiscal year runs from August 1st through the end of July to match the academic year. So anyway, so for that fiscal year, the projection that I was announcing last year, that was sort of our initial beginning of the year budget, was almost $351,000. And again, this is a big deal. You can see how rapid our growth has been and was projected to be based on, basically ever since we started adding new programs. But the reality of this past year was even better. The reality was we actually had almost $450,000 in total revenue. So you look at that 50% growth in 1 year, right? Since 2020 to 21. So from fiscal year 21 to fiscal year 22, we grew 50%. It's doubled. Our total revenue is doubled, 100% growth from fiscal year 20. It's just amazing. It's been an incredible time of growth at Signum University. Now, here is what we're focused on. Here's what I am primarily focused on, is I'm doing budgeting and things behind the scenes. And again, I shared with this, but I wanted to share more of an update about this year. A small recap for those of you who are new to this. Signum University was built from nothing. We had no startup funding of any kind. We built from scratch. So we had no startup like institutional partnership or identity, no startup, endowment or funding or anything. We started from scratch with nothing. And what that meant was, although we've been paying our faculty from the beginning, so the people who teach, so we started with just our MA program, of course. And we, from the beginning, have been paying our MA faculty out of the tuition that we've been getting from each of our courses. And I was committed to doing that from the very start, but it meant that at the very beginning, there was really not much left over to pay staff. So, at the start, it was like me and one or two people who were working, and we were basically working as volunteers, but not just as volunteers. A distinction that I want to make that's been a very important distinction to me at Signum University. There are some people who volunteer at Signum, which is awesome, and I love it when people volunteer at Signum. That is, people who just want to help out, right? Who, either have some time that they would like to give to Signum University, or, maybe they have some significant time or expertise to lend to us, and they're not in a place where they really want or need compensation. That is awesome. Absolutely love volunteers who are able to give to Signum University in that way. But there have been a core of people who have been volunteering in the sense that they were not paid. But basically they were not just, kind of donating some of their time. They were investing in Signum University. People who were investing in the opportunity to build something that would be able to become a future career for them. People who invested in helping Signum to succeed with the hope and understanding that when it did, we would be able to hire them. And that, because they decided that this is the career they wanted to help to build for themselves by helping Signum to succeed. So we've had a core of people who have been technically volunteers, but who have really been, who I think of, as I say, of investors in this way. And as our revenue has begun to grow, the number one priority that I have had over the last few years is increasing the amount of pay that we are giving to the rest of our staff. Several years ago, I basically kind of drew a line in the sand and said, we're not going to do that anymore. From here on out, anybody who joins Signum, unless they're volunteering in a true and classic way, just wanting to give of their time for free to Signum, which again, always accept that, always appreciate that. But no longer are we gonna, bring people in to work for free for now until we can afford to pay them later. Though we still have a core of investors who have been with us pretty close to from the beginning, for many years at least. But as I say, this is what I call the staff transitioning from a largely, almost exclusively volunteer staff back several years ago to the goal where we have a fully paid professional staff. And that's been really the biggest thing that's happening, the most important but kind of lowest profile thing, totally behind the scenes, that's been happening at Signum University over these past couple years. So here's a slide that I shared last year this is our commitment. Our commitment is to transitioning to a fully paid staff. So here's the slide I shared last year. This represents total pay to non-MA faculty. Again, from the beginning, we've been paying our MA faculty. Back when that was our only program, we were paying our faculty because that was a really important principle from the start in order to be able to recruit the highest possible quality faculty for our program. But as you can see, fiscal year 19 and 20 were fairly typical. It was pretty flat before that for a few years. We were only paying a total of around $41,000 to all of the rest of our staff together. And that's not very much, right? That was just an illustration of the kind, like sort of the peanuts we were able to kind of throw out there. We made a huge step forward in fiscal year 2021, where that jumped up, that multiplied by, almost, well, no, more than 3 times to $132,000. And last year I was sharing that we were projected during fiscal year 22 for that to increase up to $193,000. Well, here's the actual of what really happened. We actually spent almost $250,000 on our staff this past year. That's almost just shy of 100% growth in 1 year. We almost completely doubled the amount of money that we paid to our staff during this past year. Huge progress forward in our staff transition, and it has made me so happy. There's nothing. As the president of Signum University, there's nothing that makes me happier than paying people. I love paying people. I love filling out our salary spreadsheets and things, and allocating pay to folks. It is just a delight. Hiring people, it just can't be. It's just not. It doesn't get more fun than hiring people and empowering people to work and get paid for doing some of the awesome work of Signum University. As you can see, this is almost a 6-fold increase in 2 years, right? We went from $41,000 to $250,000 in staff pay. This is, again, paid not to the MA faculty. Now, mind, in the last 2 years, our MA faculty have also received a significant pay increase as well. So that's also been a really fun thing. So it's really good. So here's the whole picture. Our total staff, including the MA faculty, right? Our total staff pay was $364,000 in this past year, and again, as you can see, that's up 62% from last year, which itself just about doubled the year before. We've got a 3-fold growth from 2 years ago to now in total staff pay. So anyway, this is the staff transition. It's been going really well, but it continues. There are still a few, and the majority of the if you take like the total amount of like employee time and compare like what is the percentage of that which is still basically being volunteered to the university. The vast majority of that time is from a small handful of folks who have been around at Signum for a really long time, who have been investing for a really long time. I'm one of them. I still don't pay myself anything like full time because I'm wanting to facilitate paying other people first. I pay myself about 1/8 time right now. But that is something both for myself and for the several other folks who are still investing in the way that I am. I cannot wait when I can tell you that everyone at Signum is fully on payroll. This is going to be really, really exciting. So the primary thing that I would emphasize, kind of the take-home message for you guys as supporters of Signum University, when you give to Signum University, your money goes to people. Like, as you can see the percentage, right? I mean, if I go backwards for a moment, you'll remember our, hang on, sorry. Why am I not? My keyboard seems to have stopped working, which is a little inconvenient. Don't know quite why that is. Huh. Hang on a second. Why don't you do this the old-fashioned way? Okay. Hang on. All right. I think I'm working now. Okay, here we are. All right. Anyhow, so our as I was saying, if we go back a little bit, remember our total revenue for the year was $450,000, and the amount that we actually paid to people is $364,000. It's a really big percentage. I mean, it's one of the whole purposes. It's one of the reasons Signum University is organized as it is. We don't pay for a physical plant. We are a completely distributed organization in order to keep our overhead down. $85,000 that is not staff pay, that is in our expenses, our costs, taxes, employment taxes and things like that. If I counted employment taxes as part of the total staff pay, when I say total staff pay, I just mean the money that goes to people, not the money that we pay to, the government and Social Security and everybody else on behalf of our people. But anyway, all of those other sort of fees and professional services and whatever is we keep that as small as possible. We don't pay, so we don't have a physical plant. We don't have the maintenance of our physical plant, and so we're able to keep our other costs way down. So as I say, when you give to Signum, your money goes to people. Your money goes to help support the faculty teaching the courses that you love to take, the people who answer your emails when you are emailing one of our programs or our primary line, the folks who are keeping track of our books and doing all of that work way behind the scenes, our bookkeeping and our bill processing and everything else. The team that's working on our accreditation process, the new production teams I'm going to tell you more about later on. These are all the different kinds of people, some of whom who are not attached to any, attached specifically to any of our, particular tuition, like revenue earning programs, right? And so therefore, the only way that we can afford to pay them is through, the surplus that's left over from those programs and also through your generous giving. So this is what helping the Signum community to grow as a family, as an institution, and enabling us to continue, not just to grow, not just to continue doing the stuff that we're doing, but to do it better, to finally be able, there's so many ways in which, in all of the things that we do, there are so many places where we wish we could pay somebody for even more hours to be able to do more in the role that they're doing, to be able to hire a new role that we have sort of longed for and have been kind of doing without to this point. There's so many things that we could do, and this is what we use the donation money for. It goes right to people and empowering us to hire and to hire folks and pay folks. And as I say, that is what I love doing most. Now, let me tell you about, as Butterbur would say, all these goings on. What's happening at Signum University? What's been happening over this past year? First, updates about the Signum Graduate School. Our graduate school continues strong. We've had we've had solid enrollments in our master's degree program, in our graduate diploma. You'll remember that last year we had what we were calling our certificate program for a long time, and we changed the name of that last year. It's another thing I announced at the State of the University address last year. We changed that to our graduate diploma program, and that's one thing, by the way, that I think has really been kind of gaining some traction over this past year, is our graduate diploma program. There are a lot of people who would really love to dig in and take some of our graduate level courses for credit, who really want the opportunity to dig in and write papers again and really do some of this academic work, really kind of really get their feet wet in academic work. but who aren't necessarily sure they can commit to the full master's degree program. That's one of the primary things that the graduate diploma program is for. It is a shorter, more flexible program that gives you the ability to take the courses that you want, focus on the things that you want to do, and not have the fuller, larger structure of the MA program. If you begin in the graduate diploma program and you would like to transfer to the MA program, you decide, hey, actually, I'm going to go the whole way. I'm going to write a master's thesis and do the whole master's program. You can still do that. So that is been a huge that's been a really fun thing this past year. The growth of our graduate diploma program. I encourage people to look into that. The other really big thing to cautiously tell you about is that we have made some real progress in our accreditation process. Now, a couple things, and those of you who have been around a while will have heard me say things like this before. One of the rules of being so we are currently in the process of applying for accreditation. This is a long, multi-year process, and we are a couple of years into the multi-year process at this point. One of the rules of the accreditation process is that you can't talk about the accreditation process. So I can't give very specific details about the accreditation process. For instance, some of you may be wondering, where are you applying for accreditation? That's one of the things I can't tell you, for instance. However, what I can tell you is that we passed a significant milestone, not just in this last year, in this last month, actually, just a few weeks ago. There's a kind of intermediate stage, a kind of a half, it's not halfway in time. Anyway, an important intermediary stage, kind of checkpoint in the process, which we officially passed recently. Now, as before, and again, those of you who have been around will have heard me make this kind of disclaimer before, the fact that we passed that intermediary stage does not guarantee our success in the overall process. I cannot say at this point, I'm not guaranteeing that Signum's accreditation process is going to be ultimately successful, nor can I tell you exactly when. Even if it were successful, that would be likely to take force. But we have made some really, really exciting progress, and that has been wonderful. We're really kind of, I don't know if it's exactly coming around the final turn, but anyway, it was a major step, and we have a team of folks that has worked very, very hard on the process of assembling our accreditation materials, revising our accreditation materials in response to feedback. That process, as we've been going back and forth with our evaluators, it has been a long process, a rigorous process, and it has taken a couple years so far. So anyway, but we have had some initial success, which again, as I repeat, does not guarantee ultimate success, but is certainly a wonderful sign and a wonderful step as we're moving forward. So it's, I will admit, quite frustrating not to be able to tell you more. Those of you who know me will know that I love being open with people. I mean, again, I was posting our gross revenue and stuff. I'm not trying, there's nothing about Signum that I want to hide. And so I would love to just tell you everything about exactly what's happening, but I can't do that. But I did want to share that we have had a major step forward there. So we will continue working at that, and I hope that we will have more news for you. It is my goal to be giving you another update next year. We will see how things go. Thank you guys for all of your encouragement and support in this process. If you go back to when we first were evaluated for and gained our approval from the state of New Hampshire, which is the first step in this accreditation process. That was achieved back in 2018. So and then of course we were preparing for that for years before that. So this has been a long process. One of the biggest project that Signum has ever undertaken. I mean, goodness, like building and launching whole new teaching programs is like easy compared to this process. Anyway, that is, that has been, it has been so far very rewarding. We were just delighted to complete the state authorization process and to become fully authorized in the state of New Hampshire. And now we are one big step away and very hopeful, though in no way guaranteeing the success of it. Yet nevertheless, we remain very hopeful and are continuing to work really hard on that. So that's been just a huge thing going on at Signum. So there's a ridiculously brief and disappointingly vague update on one of the single biggest things that's been happening at Signum University over this past year. Also, we have our Signum Academy Clubs program, which has been going strong now for almost a year and a half. Our Signum Academy, actually, no, it's been fully a year and a half. Our Signum Academy Clubs program is our generally K through 12, our teaching program for minors. We have loved having kids in our clubs program. We've been running several clubs this past year. Our three primary clubs have been our book club, our translation club, our Old English translation club, which my son is involved in, and then also our creative writing club. These have been, we've had wonderful groups of kids in those three clubs. And we also, during this past year, and I spoke about this a little bit last year, we started in last academic year was the beginning of a relationship with Mount Royal Academy in Sunapee, New Hampshire up here, a small private school who has contracted with us to run their language program. So we're teaching Spanish at Mount Royal Academy right now. So they've basically sort of subcontracted their Spanish classes out to us. And we're now in the second year of doing Spanish there at Mount Royal, and it's been a lot of fun. We have really enjoyed this. It's been a kind of experiment, sort of seeing, there are many ways in which we think that our Signum Academy programs can really help to meet teaching needs for small private schools like this, for homeschoolers. We think that there is a lot of really exciting potential there. So we've been experimenting with some things, and our clubs program is really kind of the core of what we've been doing at the Signum Academy. I'll have more of an update from Signum Academy later, including some exciting new clubs that we're planning to offer during the coming calendar year, starting in January. So I won't give that away right now, but we're going to be offering some brand new opportunities for folks, for kids. We've been mostly doing, especially middle school and high school age students in clubs, and that's probably where our focus is going to continue, though we're open to the possibility of doing some elementary school level programs as well, but it's mostly been middle school and high school aged. So from about ages 10 and up is around where we've been so far. Anyway, so we're going to have 3 new clubs that we're going to be starting in January. More about that during our Signum Academy update later on in the day. Awesome. Yes, Eric. I see Eric, the father of one of our club students here. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, he says, it's been amazing to see the improvement in her reading comprehension and close reading skills and supporting arguments with evidence from the text. Yes, exactly. The book club has been really really wonderful. Elise Trudel Cedeno has been our primary book club leader. She's been doing a great job with that. Yeah, very, very cool. Okay. Also, of course, one of the other things that we do that I'm sure most of you are aware of are our events, our Signum moots. I love to provide the opportunity for our community to come together. We are a completely, as I mentioned before, part of our mission, part of our whole strategy at Signum University is we're a distributed organization. Our classes are all online. Our staff and faculty are distributed throughout the world. Everything that we do through the internet. But it's a wonderful opportunity to get together. And especially one of the really cool things about moots is that it brings people together from across Signum University. People who don't always interact with each other, because maybe you've got some people who, attend the same broadcasts maybe, but then you've got others who are in our master's degree program, or others who are in our clubs program, or others who are in space. And the opportunity for our community to gather, whether it's at our big major annual event, which is MythMoot in the Washington, D.C. area, or whether it's at one of our regional events. We know that everybody can't get together, but the opportunity to give people the chance to connect and touch base. These are the moots that happened over the course of these last 12 months. We had Middle Moot, well, technically, since our last one, we've had two. We had Middle Moot in Iowa last year and in Kansas City just last month. We had Tex Moot in Austin back closer to the beginning of 2022. Sunshine Moot in Orlando, which was just wonderful. Bay Moot out in Berkeley, California last fall. Buckeye Moot. We had our first ever Buckeye Moot out in Cincinnati this past summer. SoCal Moot, which moved south down to Carlsbad, even further SoCal than before. That was our most recent moot, just 2 weeks ago. I was out in Carlsbad with you guys. New England Moot here in my backyard in Derry, New Hampshire. That not literally my backyard. My backyard is not in Derry, but further south of that in New Hampshire. Anyway, here in all of New Hampshire is my backyard. It's not a big state. And our first ever mountain moot in Denver, Colorado as well. So it's been an exciting year. And of course, we have a fun year of moots. If you look at sort of 2023 and moots that we have planned, the first one is going to be is the big one I'm really excited about. In January, we're going to be doing Osmoot down in Australia, our first ever Southern Hemisphere moot, which is going to be amazing. I can't wait. We're adding a moot in the Pacific Northwest. We're planning to do, just as some of our moots kind of rotate around, like Tex Moot has been wandering around the state of Texas over the years. It was in Austin this past time. I think we're going to be doing San Antonio this next time. Middle Moot alternates back and forth between Iowa and Kansas City. I think our Pacific Northwest moot, which I don't think we have an official name for yet, is going to be sort of rotating back and forth between Portland and Seattle. So I am very excited for the Pacific Northwest moot. I'm hoping to get Magnolia Moot in the Southeast up and going again soon. I hope to get back to Europe before too long. We've not had a Europe moot since 2019, before the pandemic. Nader Moot in 2019 was our most recent Europe moot. So yeah, I'm hoping to get a Europe moot together, maybe in Wales, maybe in Sweden. We're still working on that. Anyway, and that, of course, in addition to returning engagements with many of our old traditions. As I said, we're hoping for Tex Moot in San Antonio. Sunshine Moot definitely scheduled. In fact, Sunshine Moot has the registration open already for this coming spring. Are planning to return to all of these places again over the course of the 2022 calendar year, maybe in the spring, maybe in the fall. Keep an eye out on our event page, signumuniversity.org/events. for updates on our moots. And all of our moots, of course, are fully hybrid moots. So that is the goal is for people who live nearby to be able to come and kind of connect to your local tribe, right? However, we also want to enable people who might not be comfortable in a gathering like that, for health reasons or whatever, or maybe, people who would just love to be able to participate in multiple moots. We have a number of frequent flyers who come to many of our moots. We've had several people who have attended all of our fall moots this past year, have attended them remotely. We work very hard to try to make as much as we possibly can all of our moots fully hybrid. That is, if you attend remotely, you're not just a spectator, kind of a fly on the wall, peeking in at what's going on during the moot. We like to have you be able to participate fully. We have, multi-way discussions with our remote people and our people who are there on site. We have on-site and remote presenters. It's as much as we can a fully hybrid experience, and that's been. That was one of the big things that happened this past year. Last year, the 2021-2022 year was the first year in which we were going fully hybrid with all of our moots, and we've been continuing that this year, and that's been really, really successful and really exciting. It is true that when we have food, that is better in person than remotely. No question. All right. We also have some exciting new arrivals. So one major advance for Signum that happened in the course of this past year was finally being able to fill in the gaps of something that's been a challenge for us from the very beginning. And that is software systems. Basically, I found, I remember how much time I spent in 2010, 2011, 2012, looking for software systems that Signum could afford with its very, very, very modest budget. And they just didn't exist. There was nothing that we could afford. And I'm talking things like course registration, student records, billing, things like that. There are a number of systems like this. There were a couple open source ones that were really clunky and hard to use. And then there were really, really high-end ones who were like wanting to charge us more than our gross revenue in order to use them, which was obviously off the table. And so for many years, for like more than a decade, Signum University operated basically off of Google Sheets, essentially Google Sheets and Google Forms for all of our registration and student records and all. It was tough. It was really, really challenging. And this year, James Tauber and his company at Eldarion came to the rescue. James Tauber, many of you know James from the Digital Tolkien Project. He's been a member of the Signum board. He's been a student in our classes, and he's been teaching several. He taught one of our MA classes last year. He has been teaching many of our modules in space. Many of you will have seen him around Signum University. His company, Eldarion, which does a lot of consulting in digital humanities and development of web products for forms and sites and things for a lot of schools in particular. He does a lot of, as I say, does a lot of consulting in digital humanities and working in education. Well, as I say, they came to the rescue. And by the way, happy birthday, James, as it's your birthday today. They're celebrating James Tauber on his birthday here. last year, he undertook to create for us, to develop for us, some custom systems for those things that we've been lacking for all of these years: registration, student records, billing, all that kind of thing. So two of the most exciting new arrivals during this past year were, first, Goldberry. Goldberry is what we decided to name our new course registration and student records system. Goldberry is an eminent hostess. So when our MA students arrive, she brings them in. When you go to sign up for a course at Signum University, you might not expect to be greeted by a fair young elf queen clad in living flowers, but there it is. So this is just a screenshot of our course registration system for this coming spring. These are our coming spring options. And Goldberry is, I cannot even explain. You have to have experienced it to really understand what a step forward having a system like Goldberry has been for us. It is really just phenomenal. And so we had Goldberry. We launched Goldberry in December of last year. So we are coming up on the 1-year anniversary of Goldberry at Signum University. Then, of course, at the same time, like right as Goldberry was in development and was being launched, we were also launching our space program. And the space program was really complicated. There are a lot of complexities for space. Trying to figure, because basically what we're doing in the space program, among the things that we are trying to accomplish in the space program, is something that I don't think anybody else has really attempted to do. And that is to make a synchronous educational program. That is an educational program that is based on live classes that people are attending in real time together, which is also an on-demand service, basically. Like there are two well-established models. One where you have a bunch of static material that you have a catalog from, right? That people can choose from. So you just, here's a list of like course materials that you can download and watch on your own time, right? That's a well-established model. There's the other model where we say, okay, here are the courses that we're offering and the times at which we're offering them. Take it or leave it, right? And those, are often live synchronous courses and stuff. Like that's how normal semesters at universities run, right? Now, already through the MA program, since the beginning, since 2011, we've already been pioneering in this. One of the things that we have done from the start is have our synchronous courses, all of our teaching programs at Signum University, focus primarily on synchronous teaching, on the opportunity to bring everybody together in a virtual classroom and work through stuff together. Have a real classroom environment. But we've also we've scheduled that flexibly based on people's preferences. That is, instead of just saying like this class is at this time, day and time, take it or leave it, we have developed a system which has been mastered by Sparrow Alden over the years, who has been our course scheduler in the MA program for many years now, of asking students to tell us their preferences when they are available to take classes. And then Sparrow does this matchmaking thing where we form a schedule that will accommodate our students' needs to the greatest extent that we possibly can. And everybody, is as flexible as we can be, and we create a really positive environment that works with people instead of just dictating to them. So that we already had in the MA program, but space is kind of even more ambitious than that. It's not only being flexible with the schedules, we do that too, but also wanting to give people the opportunity to tell us, what modules do you want? You can learn almost anything in space. What would you like to learn, right? How can we best cater to the needs and desires of our diverse student population and still be offering live courses. So this was a complicated situation. And at the beginning, Rob Goslin, whom I'll be introducing in a little bit, who is the director of our space program, he started developing really great systems, and he was administering those through some seriously complicated spreadsheets and things. And he just reached the point where it was almost impossible as space began to grow very quickly, as I'll show you guys in a little bit. He began to really struggle with that. So James partnered up with Rob and developed a parallel system, parallel to Goldberry, but separate from Goldberry. Goldberry is just for our enrolled students in the MA and graduate diploma programs. This is for our enrolled graduate students. So we added Blackberry. Blackberry, of course, named after the rabbit in Watership Down. When I suggested the name, I was thinking of that scene. If you know Watership Down, you may remember that scene where Hazel lays out the almost impossible set of things that the plan to get the does out of Ephrafa has to accomplish, and then he turns to Blackberry, the clever rabbit, and says, "And you, Blackberry, are going to this plan is going to be devised by you." So we named Blackberry. We named the new system Blackberry. As Blackberry is the one who's going to solve all of the complexities. So here in Blackberry, this is again just another screenshot. You can see this is the very beginning of the list of our December 2022 modules, where you can go in and you can see the things that are being offered now, the things are being offered next month, the candidates that are put forward for January for people to vote on. You set your time zone and availability so that we can factor in when you can attend classes, and we can try to make all that stuff work. All that happens through Blackberry. So Goldberry and Blackberry have just been amazing systems that have it's been incredible. As I say, you to quote Watership Down again, you can't imagine it if you haven't been there. What it was like trying to do all these things without. So enormous thanks to James Tauber and his team at Eldarion. And over the course of the year, we have, James and I were in discussions, and we've decided James and his Eldarion team have officially joined with Signum. They're becoming part of our organization. And there's a whole lot that we plan to do together. As I said, Eldarion, they do consultancies in digital humanities projects. They're going to be able to bring some digital text and digital humanities resources to our academic programs. There's all kinds of things that they're going to do. So that whole relationship is kind of just beginning, and we're just sort of figuring out where we want to start with things that that we can do together now that Eldarion is joined with Signum. So I'll more later on exactly how that's going to work. But one thing that I did want to mention is that an opportunity that we're looking to move forward with, probably sometime in this next year, is, as I've been reflecting back over the frustrations that we had for a decade, right? Trying to find, there was nothing on the market that, as far as, again, registration, student record systems, that was really going to be sufficiently powerful to be a serious upgrade over managing our own spreadsheets, and also which was affordable for a small school. Again, most of the systems out there are really targeting the upper end of the market, and the lower end of the market is therefore really neglected. And there are a lot of small schools out there. I know there are a lot of small schools. Maybe they're small colleges. Maybe they're private schools. Private K through 12 schools and things like that, who just don't have the purchasing power to be able to purchase one of the major systems, and so end up like we were, kind of patching things together on their own. So I think that we have an opportunity to take Goldberry and Blackberry as models that we could offer to other schools. I think it's a really, really exciting potential, something that we're going to be moving forward with, as I say, we're planning to move forward with over the course of this next year. So I would just throw out there at this point, if any of you know of a place, know of something that we could, of a school that might be looking for a system like this, would love to have some initial conversations with schools that are interested in this to kind of feel that out and see the extent to which we'd really be able to help out schools like that. All right, I better move on with my updates so I don't run out of time. Space. So it has been a year in space. As I said before, last year at this time, I announced the space program, explained it for the first time, opened the purchase of tokens, and we launched our first modules in December of 2021. So we are almost exactly 1 year in. We're coming at the end of this month. We will have completed 12 months of space modules. And I was explaining last year how excited I was for the potential of this program, how I felt that it filled an important need in our community. We had a bunch of teaching programs already, but they were all kind of specialized. I was explaining how I felt there was sort of a large gap for people who want to learn, who learn best in this kind of a synchronous classroom environment, not just kind of, watching videos on your own, but really having a dedicated teacher and having fellow students that you can be learning with. But also people who can't commit to it, who either are not in a place where they can commit to a longer program like our MA program, or maybe they don't need a master's degree, right? Or maybe they want to study other things, right? All kinds of educational needs that I was excited for space to fulfill. And it has been awesome. The first year of the space program has really been beyond any expectation that I had. What I've been hearing from students has been so exciting. I've been hearing from students not just through sort of Signum channels, but even several members of my own family have been taking space classes and just loving them. It has been really, really fun and really remarkable. And the growth of the space program has been unlike anything we have seen at Signum University ever. So here's the shape this is our monthly participants in our space programs, our total enrollments in space over the course of this past year. And you'll notice that at the very beginning of the space program, we had that decline, December, January to February. That's exactly what I was expecting. Every time we've ever launched a program, we've seen that, right? People will get excited. We'll get early adopters jumping in to try it out. And then usually that tails off. This is what we saw in the MA program 12 years ago, was a huge first semester and then less and then less. And then it kind of settled down and plateaued. People who were staying, and then we sort of steadily grew again over time until, we got back to at least as high as we were in that very first semester. And of course, that's exactly what we saw for the first 3 months, except it didn't stay low. As you can see, that you can imagine how exciting those months from February through May were, as we were seeing the growth month by month, every single month in space, not only getting back up to, past what we saw for participation in the first month in December. We did that, by month 5 of the program, we exceeded that. But then to continue to grow until, by the time we get to September of this past year just 2 months ago. In this past September, so February was that sort of low point, the third month, right, which is right around where I expected that. And in September, we had, as you can see, like 5.5 times, just about 5 times as many students participating as we had back in February, 7 months before. This kind of growth is really amazing. I've never seen anything like this. The graduate program, as I say, slowly grew over time and, got back up to the levels, of our very first semester, like 5 years later. And space did it in the course of in less than 6 months. So it has been very, very remarkable. But it's not just the numbers. It's not just the number of students we have. As you can see, we're now right up around, in the ballpark of 100 students participating per month, every month, for the last 5 months. And spoiler, we're well on our way towards that. When last I saw, yesterday, we had 86 so far enrolled for this coming month, for December of 2022. And there's still, a week and a half for further enrollment. And usually the week and a half before classes start is usually a pretty big one. I think we're probably going to be up at or over 100 again in December. Anyhow, so it has been a really, really remarkable success. And I think the sky's the limit for space. It is clear that the convictions that I had, that I was explaining last year about the need and desire for this kind of program, is even greater than I thought it was. And the way in which space occupies this kind of sweet spot, it really has been everything that's fun about taking college classes, with almost none of the things that are, onerous about taking college classes. It's like all the upsides and none of the downsides of taking college classes. It's yeah, okay, right. The sky's the limit for space is probably not the best metaphor now, is it? Anyway, there are no limits to space. How about that? I think that space is going to go really far, and I can't wait to see what happens in our second year as we move forward with space. But there's a whole bunch of things that just beyond simple numbers, that the new frontiers in teaching, the way in which space has opened up opportunities, not just for students, but for faculty, has been really, really cool. There have been so many times over the last 10 years that people have approached me and said, hey, I would love to teach a course on this in the MA program, right? Like, hey, you guys should teach a course on that. This would be a great topic or whatever. But we can't. I mean, we only offer a handful of courses every term, and we only have 3 terms a year. And we have to, we have a rotation that we have to maintain to give everybody an opportunity to take our core classes. And, we can't. We just can't do nearly as many things as I would want to be able to do. Space is limitless. We have run 145 separate modules so far in the first 12 months of space. So our modules, they're each little 1-month modules. We have right now 332 modules in our public catalog, and I believe there's a large number of modules that are still that have been proposed and are in review that have not yet been posted to the catalog. It has been so great to have not only members of our current MA faculty, many of whom are teaching, other people across our institution who are jumping in and teaching things in their own particular areas of expertise, people from our community who have come to us and said, oh man, I would love to teach a space module on this or that. So many things that we have been offering, and I just love the variety of our curriculum. Our curriculum is divided into 4 major sectors right now. So we have 4 space sectors: fantasy studies, language, creative writing, and general humanities. Those are our 4 primary sectors. We may add more sectors as we move forward. A new sector that we are considering adding during the course of this coming year is a series of practical modules. That is, things like gardening, cooking, all kinds of things, right? Again, not just academic topics, but practical topics. We'll see. We might be adding those. We also divide our modules, so you can go into BlackBerry and you can see a list of our modules by portals. So our space portals, that's what the P in space stands for, by the way. Signum portals for adult continuing education. Our portals are basically ways to enable people to find modules that fit particular interests of theirs. So this is a selection. This is like a third of the portals that we have listed in BlackBerry. If you're interested in Tolkien, if you're interested in science fiction, if you're interested in Japan, if you're interested in the Middle Ages, if you're interested in children's literature or film studies or video games, we have beginning languages if you want to start learning a language that you haven't known before, or advanced languages if there's a language that you have studied and you want to keep it up. This is such a huge area that almost nobody does. There are lots of places you can go to learn languages. There are not that many places where you can go to maintain a language that you have learned. Our focus in our advanced languages right now are especially the languages that we teach at Signum University. We've had many of our alumni who have been taking those classes. So, for instance, one of our most popular one of those has been our Old English advanced language modules. So people who have been studying Old English and who have learned, how to translate Beowulf and read Old English poetry in the original. But you know what? I can tell you from experience, you lose it if you don't use it, right? So we have this monthly opportunity for people to get together and read Old English poetry together, to keep your hand in and get exposed to whole new sets of works that you almost never get to read or to teach in regular old English courses. So it's been awesome. I encourage you to go to BlackBerry. You can go to signumuniversity.org/space. There's a link to BlackBerry there. You don't have to be registered in order to see it. You can look through our portals even without creating a BlackBerry account. If you want to register and buy tokens, you need to create a BlackBerry account, of course, so that we can help get you registered in space. But anyhow, it's been seriously cool. And space also has been a huge part of Signum's success this past year. The 2 reasons why our actual gross revenue so significantly exceeded our projections for gross revenue was that we have the combination of the massive response to the annual fund, the fundraising that I showed you in the very first slide, and then secondly, space. Space far exceeded the initial conservative projections that I went into the year with. We sold over 1,000 tokens in this first year of space being in existence. We've sold 1,064 as of now, as I recall from my email this morning. 10 more tokens were purchased this morning, I believe. So 1,064 tokens in the first year. Total revenue, $128,150. It's just been, that was not expected. I did not expect this program. I did not dare to hope it would take off in the way that it has, and it has been phenomenal. How many of those have been used? Most. There are many people who buy, because of course the tokens are cheaper if you buy more of them. So many people kind of have will kind of stock up and then work through them over the course of many months. So usually, I think, as I recall, tokens used is somewhere around 860, something like that. So yeah. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so that's been a fairly typical pattern from the beginning. As there are a number of people who will just kind of buy one at a time and use them, and other people who will hoard them and then go through the hoard over time. So yeah. Anyway, it's been phenomenal. Okay. I want to talk, and I'm not going to talk at great length because I'm going to be doing some other sessions covering this, but I wanted to talk a little bit about visions for the future. Our theme, empowering subcreation and cultivating connection. There are several opportunities that arose this year, rather unexpectedly. And for, those Tolkien fans out there, may remember like Aragorn seeing an elf stone and saying, I shall take this as a sign, or, Elrond at the end of the Council of Elrond saying, if I have understood aright all that I have heard, then this is what we should do. I tend to run Signum University on similar kind of principles in some ways. That is just sort of seeing the opportunities that come and the things which really just kind of present themselves. And sometimes these kinds of opportunities present themselves in like space last year, the opportunity to really kind of fill that gap, the perception of that gap and the conviction. There's really a desire for this. From what I'd been hearing from people, there's really a desire for this kind of program. And again, that desire exceeded even my expectations. Sometimes it comes in the form of people. A person comes along and I say, oh, with this person's help, we could do this thing that we've wanted to do. And the opportunities this year were of that sort. 2 people came along. Well, they didn't come along. We've been connected with them for a long time. But the opportunity to work more closely with Serena Higgins and with Maggie Park have both of them really had a huge impact on this past year. And have enabled us to move forward with a couple projects that, to varying degrees, I've wanted or dreamed about for a long time, but never felt the moment had come for us to be able to do, where we were able to do it. But the time has now come, and that is the Signum University Press and Signum Studios. For the press, we've wanted to do an academic press for a long time. We've been talking, Serena and I have been talking about doing a Signum University Press for many years. And, I have really enjoyed thinking about the question, what can Signum do in the publishing world, right? We have tried to do some good in the education world. Since we were starting from scratch anyway, we took the opportunity to say, how can we do some things differently so that we can address some of the deepest problems that are really endemic in the education industry? And of course, the number one problem that's endemic in the American education industry is tuition levels, right? And so we have developed some new models in which we can deliver high, top quality education without having to force students to go massively into debt. So in the publishing world, what can we do there? If we're going to build our own press from scratch, how might we do that in ways that can really make a difference, can really change some things? Again, address, not merely replicate some of the same kind of problems that have led to some of the biggest issues in the industry. And the biggest issues in the publishing industry that I was really excited to try to address was the exploitation of authors and artists, and also accessibility questions. I wanted to make sure that the things that we published are, so one of the things that we're going to be doing, for instance, in that area is having electronic and audio versions of everything that we publish, which is not done everywhere, because whatever, they think it won't be profitable enough or whatever, but we're going to do that. Anyway, there are lots of ways in which we can make a difference. I'm not going to go into too many details about the press and what exactly we're doing and what we're planning. We're going to have a big press update that Serena is going to lead later on in the day, and I'll leave a lot of that explanation to her. But another thing that I did want to mention is that we wanted, through the press, to create a new culture of community interaction, to not just have a press which is in the business of putting out material. Like, here's stuff that we're publishing, and we're offering this to you so that you can buy it and take it away and read it, right? That's what publishers do, right? And of course, we're going to be doing that. Like, it's not that we're not going to do that, but we can do more than that. And we are really excited about opportunities that we are creating for the audience to be more actively engaged with authors and with the creative process itself. That we can be cultivating connection among our community and between readers and writers through the process of publication, in some ways that I think are going to be really, really exciting, and which is going to be quite different for an academic press. So I think that's going to be really fun. Now, the other Signum Studios. One of the opportunities, of course, that led to the launch of Signum Studios, which is very new. We're just getting Signum Studios underway, and that, of course, was the partnership that we established with Studio Lab in Derry, New Hampshire. Many of you will have seen Rings and Realms, the analysis show of the Rings of Power that Maggie and I made in partnership with Studio Lab. The very remarkable production quality of those videos is all down to Studio Lab and their world-class facilities and talent. And so the opportunity to work with Studio Lab and Maggie coming on with her enthusiasm and experience in the film and video production world has really made Signum Studios possible. And here we're with Signum Studios, we're really going to be breaking new ground. What I mean by that is Signum University Press is going to be doing a whole bunch of really new things, right? We're going to be revolutionizing through Signum University Press the whole concept of an academic press. And yet, an academic press is nevertheless a known category, right? Lots of people have academic presses. So although, as I say, we're going to be redefining that, it's a thing that is sort of out there. But what does an academic video studio look like? That is something that has been a question that has really fascinated me. What are potentials that universities have not? Again, universities do presses, have done presses for centuries. But what would an academic studio look like? What would we do? What are some ways in which, if we had the opportunity to create high-quality video productions, what are some of the things that we could do? What are some of the ways in which we could really sort of establish some whole new areas of, sort of this crossover of learning and entertainment in the video world? And I think that there are really awesome frontiers here that just have not been much explored. It's one of the things that has long frustrated me about the entertainment industry, both film and TV, is that they sometimes have seemed to be almost allergic to academic or intellectual content, right? Well, I could tell stories, but I won't bore you with particular stories. But there have been a lot of times when I've been in conversations over the last 10 years with folks in the entertainment world and saying, like, it's my experience that there are tens, hundreds of thousands of people out there who just flourish when provided with like good, meaty, intellectual material, right? You don't have to, just because you're putting something on TV doesn't mean you have to dumb it down, right? There's actual learning that can happen. And I'm not saying all TV does this. I'm not saying there's no such thing as smart TV. But it's been my experience whenever I've proposed things, people are like, oh, no, people don't want to think that much. And I'm like, I don't think you're right about that. Anyway, it may be true of many, but it is certainly not true of all. Anyhow, as I say, I think that there are a lot of potentials. We're just getting started at Signum Studios and figuring things out, but I am really excited about the possibilities there. Let me talk just a little bit, and then I will end, about how I see the press and the studios fitting into the big picture of Signum University. I think that there is, together, these two will help to fill what is also a sort of gap. When you back up and you look at all of what Signum University does as a whole, right? We do our teaching programs, which are awesome. And our teaching programs themselves are very inclusive and broad. I'm very happy with where those are, right? We have teaching programs which meet not quite all yet, but almost all learning needs of people. At least within our disciplines. So I'm really happy with our teaching programs. So there are teaching programs, then there are public broadcasts. Mostly the ones that I do, right? And these are more inclusive and they build a broader community. I love making those available. And then, of course, we have our events, which serve as connectors among all these things. But, of course, one of the problems that people have pointed out over the years is that they would love to have more breadth in engagement opportunities outside of our teaching programs. Like, they know that our teaching programs exist, but there are a lot of people who are like, okay, I can't do that right now. I need to be a little bit more passive in my engagement. That is, I can't be, I don't have time to take classes right now. Maybe try a space class every in a random month and give it a shot. But again, I get it. Like, not everybody has time to do that. And so a lot of those people, of course, are maybe listening to my my weekly broadcasts, or one or more of my weekly broadcasts asynchronously. And I often get lots of people politely saying things like, those are great, but it would be fun to hear from somebody other than you too, right? And maybe something else other than Tolkien. There's more stuff to talk about. And I'm like, yeah, okay. The problem there is money. So I don't know anybody else who will do that for free. And I wouldn't want to ask anybody to do that for free. As I mentioned, I like to pay people for their time. And I would love to build a broader program of, more people teaching, things, running broadcasts like that are open to everybody. But we can't do it, because I can't ask somebody else to do that basically for free. And we don't have any mechanism for making money with that. I don't want to put up a paywall in front of our weekly broadcasts in order to try to pay for this. So that's been sort of the challenge. How can we give more? How can we enable more engagement with more and broader amounts of content? Well, the only way we can do that, the only way we can create more content for people to engage with and to engage with more broadly, is somehow to charge for it, somehow to monetize it. And as I say, I don't want to put up a paywall in front of the things that we do. So what then? Well, that's then the opportunity arose both for the press and for the studios to develop those during this, to begin developing those during this past year, and really look forward to this coming year as the sort of the flowering of both of those programs. And this creates a new space that provides awesome new opportunities for exactly this kind of thing. Creating great new content, not just great new content, premium content, right? Some things which are, the books, articles, video, audio productions, a different category of content creation. There's sort of podcasts, YouTube videos, and blogs, right? Which are great. And there's so much really great content that's out there. And there's a lot of that's available. There's also premium content, right? And in the super premium content up above, I would put things like the high dollar, movies and TV shows and things like, and, courses as well, like, degree courses and things like that. Our teaching programs are sort of up there too. But then in the middle, there's not so much in the middle. The opportunity to have more stuff that you can sink your teeth into, more stuff that you can talk about, more stuff that you can engage with, that we can give beyond what we do, more smart, thoughtful science fiction and fantasy content that's really kind of designed for our community. And I think that the press and the studios together are really going to be able to fill this gap and provide a lot of opportunities for new voices, for new topics, for new fandoms to come in to our community, to be, for Signum to be both empowering sub-creation, the making of new things, and also cultivating connection among our community. So as I said, later on today, you're going to learn more about both of our new programs. In just a few minutes, we're going to talk about Signum Studios. Maggie's going to join me, and we're going to discuss the Signum Studios and what's coming up. The press, we're going to be doing a big press update at the end of today's session. They've got a bunch of fun announcements and a surprise as well there. So anyway, that's going to be great fun. I cannot wait for you to see what these programs have to offer. I'm involved in both as a sub-creator. We're publishing my next book, Exploring the Lord of the Rings, through the press. I'm working with Maggie on some studio projects in development. Really, really fun stuff. It's so good to be in those spaces. All right. So thus ends our State of the University address. Thanks for being here for this update. And I love, as I said, to be able to share with you the really exciting things that have been going on at Signum University and a little glimpse of what's to come as well. Now, before